So, folks, I want to talk to you guys about the fact that Donald Trump is experiencing profound mental collapse in real time. And I know that this might sound like a story I have talked about numerous times, but I'm going to keep ringing this bell because it's really alarming and it keeps getting more alarming as every day passes. And it's gotten to the point where he is now unintentionally threatening genocide. Just like idly getting asked a question that is completely unrelated and then just inserting genocide into his answer. And it's really weird and really dangerous. And I want to talk about it because it has profound implications for basically everything that is emanating out of the White House right now. I want to start with this post from the White House Twitter account, which just says, "Trust in Trump. Just sit back and relax. It will all work out well in the end. It always does." And like, I gotta tell you guys, when we're in the situation where the White House just feels compelled to put out the message, "Relax, don't worry about it. It'll all work out in the end." Like, this really sounds bad. This sounds like some truly bad shit is happening. Like, I'm still old enough to remember when I was a child and like my parents were like, you have to respect the president. The president is he's always reliable and truthful, and like you got to respect the office of the president. And the president speaks like a leader. And now we're just getting shh, shh, don't worry about it, baby. Don't worry. And it's just like, oh, this is bad. Like, this is genuinely awful. But it's not even like the worst thing that's been going on, right? If you just start looking at his Truth Social account, it's honestly batshit. It's complete and utter batshit. You have, like, this is the most recent post on it. It's just Hunter Biden drawing Donald Trump. It says greatest president. What the fuck? "The ballroom is coming along fantastically well. It's on time and under budget, unlike the Federal Reserve Building, where Too Late has done a terrible job of cost and time control. It's much higher quality than I ever promised, including the drone port." And we're gonna get to the drone port in a little bit, but guys, we're in the middle of like an economic recession that could very well spiral into an economic depression. And this guy is just schizo posting about his fucking ballroom expansion to the White House. He's posting about the blue of the reflecting pool. He's talking about how voter ID, which again, we talked about this in a recent segment, voter ID laws originally pushed by private prison corporations via the American Legislative Executive Council because of voter ID laws disproportionately disenfranchise African Americans in this country. And guess what? Private prisons rely on African Americans to perform slave labor inside of their prisons. Like, I want you all to understand that starting back in the Reagan era, the American Legislative Executive Council, one of the most powerful lobbying tools in America, was pushing for voter ID laws. The reason Donald Trump pushes for voter ID laws is the exact same reason Geo Group and the American Legislative Executive Council has been pushing for voter ID laws for the past 50 years. It's just to disenfranchise people. It is not because there is profound concerns out there about voter fraud. It is another method to consolidate political power, right? I didn't realize that about voter ID laws. Yeah, the American Bar Association actually has pushed, not pushed. American Bar Association actually has an article on their website about this. I talked about it the other day. I'm pulling up the source real quick. They have an article from back in 2014, Alec Exposed, and it's all about the history of Alec's different actions, right? But let's take a look here. Talks about a bunch of different things. 3 strike laws, mandatory minimums, truth in sentencing, more jail for shoplifting were all pushed by ALEC. Its zeal to private prisons has fundamentally altered our criminal justice system, making it very profitable to arrest and lock up more Americans and immigrants and to do so for longer. It should come as no surprise that the Corrections Corporation of America and Geo Group bankrolled ALEC for years. Bills that make it harder for Americans to vote through voter ID restrictions were also spawned by ALEC after it made the measure a priority following Barack Obama's historic election in 2008 with high turnout among college students and the elderly and in cities with significant populations of African Americans. That's the history of voter ID laws in America, by the way. So, just as an FYI. When I say Donald Trump is like schizo posting on the timeline about the ballroom and the reflecting pool, this is also what I mean. He posted 9 hours ago a 6-second video. Like we are full on like this guy. This guy is going insane in real time. There's really no other way of breaking down what's happening, right? There's no other way. And he's straight up telling us what's happening. By the way, here's another post from a couple days ago. The results from my physical examination taken at Walter Reed Military Medical Center and just released were extremely good. Unlike other U.S. presidents, none of whom have ever taken an approved high-difficulty cognitive test, I scored a perfect 30 out of 30, considered extreme intelligence. Are the Democrats really surprised? In fact, this is my 4th such test, all perfect, or 120 correct answers out of 120 questions asked. It is very rare that anyone gets a perfect score, especially when achieved 4 times in a row. All people running for president and vice president should be forced to take high-difficulty cognitive tests. Congress and the Democrats should demand it. President Donald J. Trump. Now, this is interesting. For a couple reasons. Number one, I want you all to understand, he mentions twice in this post on May 30th that he has taken 4 tests that he has scored perfect results on, right? 4 tests. And he also seems to be posting memes that claim he has aced 3 of them. I'm genuinely a bit befuddled because he might actually just not remember how many of these cognitive tests he's had. Right? Like, my God. The reason all of those other past presidents weren't taking cognitive tests was because they didn't have cognitive issues the way that Donald Trump does. Like Joe Biden does have cognitive issues, but it's because he's old. And I think that whatever you might say about Donald Trump, I don't think his issue is that he's old. Like, he's been visiting Walter Reed repeatedly. He's gone for his, 3rd or 4th physical in the past year. Yearly physical in the past year. And every time he leaves describing acing cognitive tests. And it seems to me that the tests he's describing, and this is also, co-signed by medical doctors who give these tests. These are dementia tests. He's being given dementia tests because there's something wrong with his brain, which is, by the way, validated by the fact that he keeps just posting AI slop. He keeps posting AI slop of the ballroom or the pools. And this is actually aligns neatly with other world leaders who have been psychotic. It's the Nero fiddling while Rome burned situation. Here's from June 1st. He writes this at 8:27 p.m. 51st state, and he links to this Bloomberg article. And if you go to the Bloomberg article, Canada dips into technical recession for the first time since 2020. He's still talking about Canada becoming a state. He's still threatening the sovereignty of other countries. It's not subtle, guys. Hello, Greenland. Like, I don't know how, but he's dementia posting himself as a villain.
History always shows that leaders with narcissistic traits and dementia always pans out horribly for the public. I'm genuinely scared for everyone here. Stay safe you all, crying cat face emoji.
2D Synctium, thank you for the $10 super chat. And, like, I'm more worried about people abroad, right? Because the Imperial war machine is far more likely to harm people abroad than it is to harm people domestically, though increasingly Trump and his fascist regime are trying to bring those same imperial tactics, typically deployed against other nations. They're bringing them home, right? Like that's why you get ICE doing the same kinds of tactics that they would do in the military in other countries. But like the threats against Greenland, like the European Union and NATO had to like have contingency plans and troops deployed to Greenland to potentially blow up the the airports, you know, the runways. That's the level of seriousness that people are treating this with. It's not cute to people who are subject to this kind of threat. Like most American, like I want to be clear here. Most Americans aren't seeing this. Most Americans are not going and looking at Donald Trump's Truth Social account on a daily basis. Most Americans are not aware that he is just off the cuff threatening another country. They aren't aware of it. But the people in Greenland sure as shit are. The people in Europe sure as shit are. This is meaningful to millions of people. We are doing unspeakable amounts of damage to our efforts to conduct diplomacy in the years after Donald Trump. We are making ourselves into effectively a North Korea that is not going to be able to have equitable relationships with other countries as we move forwards. You know? This kind of damage is going to be felt, by the way. Like, I know Republicans are like, diplomacy's weak and gay or whatever. But I want to remind you guys, diplomacy is what allows us to be able to negotiate for like lower prices. It's what allows us to be able to engage in trade with other countries. It's what allows the products that you buy at the supermarket to keep your family alive, the drugs you buy, etc., the things that you require to live. It is related to all of that. By degrading diplomatic power, by degrading US standing in the world, you are actively conspiring against your own ability to live. Like, it is very obvious if you stop and think about it for like 5 seconds. This isn't like some funny haha thing. Like, this is how you wind up like getting stuck in a Great Depression era situation, and we are rapidly beelining towards that. Now we get to the part that I'm very concerned about, which is this exchange that occurred earlier 2 days ago. 2 days ago.
First one is, are you concerned at all that the IRGC could sabotage any potential deal? And then the second one is, you have a birthday coming up. I won't say which number, but it's a big birthday. So you're going to blow out a candle. You're going to blow out some candles on a cake, hopefully. What are your wishes that you'd like to see accomplished the next year for the United States and your presidency?
Well, I'll go in your order. Anything can happen, you know, when you're dealing with Iran, but when you're dealing with other countries. But that's a very volatile part of the world, probably the most volatile part of the world. The people are volatile. The leadership, you see what's going on. We've gone through 3 teams of leadership. It's been we're military. There's never been a military like what we have. We could go another 2-3 weeks and just wipe everybody out. I'd rather not do that. Very easy to do. They're ready to do it. They want to do it. They want to do it. But if we can get something down in writing which will accomplish the same thing without killing everybody, I'd like to do that. Most of my people, I think, would like to do that. Some people wouldn't. but most of them would. But we had to take a detour as far as wishes for, and I'm very proud of that detour, you know. By the way, just to finish off on that, we had the strongest stock market in history, and I said, we have no choice, we have to do it. I knew it would affect it, but I was very happily surprised when I saw that today we hit another stock market high. I mean, we have the highest stock market in history with a...
First one is, are you...
Like, he babbles a bit about how volatile the Iranians are, and then transitions into talking about how the bloodthirst of the American military runs so deep that we could fight for another 2 to 3 weeks and kill all of them. And in fact, the American military really wants to wipe all of them out. That's where we're at, guys. The president is just like word vomiting to reporters about how he thinks that killing all the Iranians is something that the US military desperately wants to do. That the US military is just chomping at the bit to do its own genocide. Which, to be clear here, is him threatening to do a genocide. He's effectively saying, the Iranians, they're so crazy. The only thing we could do is kill all of them, I guess, if we can't get to a deal. Like, that's crazy. That is crazy. It is disgusting. And, like, this man should not be allowed to hold power. This is irresponsible to a degree that is impossible to put in words. He's a deeply, deeply sick man. Honestly, what's happening right now is worse than anything that Biden did. You know? What is worse right now, like he's Bidening to an exponential degree. To put it into conservative terms, this man is worse than Joe Biden at any singular point during his presidency. He's Bidening so fucking hard that he's out Biden. And by the way, like, this isn't confined to just him talking to the press, right? In that one interview. Like, it's consistent. This is from earlier today. Trump details risky, rejected plan for U.S. troops to collect nuclear dust in Iran. At the Oval Office on Thursday, President Donald Trump, for the first time, detailed a risky plan that he opted not to greenlight that would have sent U.S. troops into Iran to collect enriched uranium, or nuclear dust, as he calls it. The president said he decided to not go forward with the plan given the dangers. Trump said the operation would have taken at least 2 weeks, and also talked about the massive equipment that would need to be airlifted in. The president added the U.S. could still carry out such an operation, but also said there's no reason to because the nuclear material is entombed. We could get it right now. I don't think they could stop us if we wanted, but there's no reason to. It's entombed. Like, this dude is the one making decisions about that affect the lives of, like, tens of thousands, tens of millions of people. And, you know, like, worth noting that, like, people are seeing it. People are recognizing that Donald Trump is deeply, deeply unstable. They are responding to the fact that gas prices are worsening. Are, like, people's wallets are getting lighter and lighter. He's now hit like a 35% approval rating, even in mainstream polls, not just in like, off the cuff or fringe polling, but this is mainstream polling from The Economist. He's hit officially 35% approval. Like, this is, we're talking basically bottom of the barrel in terms of how low you can get in Republican support. It's truly insane. There's not really any comparable moment in either Biden or Trump's terms. You can actually look at this point in Biden and Trump. In Trump's first term, Trump was 10 points underwater. You know, in Biden's first term, he was 9 points underwater. Right now, he's 25 points underwater. He's doing over twice as bad as he was last time. Is that like Hoover numbers? Yeah, we're getting close to like Herbert Hoover during the Great Depression numbers. And what could it be? What could be leading to this? Could it be, for example, that he's just posting about how He desperately needs the White House ballroom because it will operate as a drone port. He's just posting AI slop. It's crazy. The drone port at the White House ballroom will be perhaps the most sophisticated anywhere in the world. It will safeguard our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., long into the future. Judge Richard Leon should stop playing games with America's security. If anything happens, he will be held responsible for the death and destruction caused to our country. He's already created enough problems by allowing top-secret information to be released and exposed based on a ridiculous lawsuit started by a highly litigious woman, serial plaintiff, whose strolling, in her opinion, will be disturbed by the new, desperately needed structure. In any event, a woman who has absolutely no standing. Well, it sounds like she has been doing some standing if she's doing some walking, if you know what I'm saying. With the advent of highly sophisticated, powerful, modern-day weaponry, we can no longer defend Washington, D.C. with rifles and pistols alone. This ridiculous lawsuit must be dismissed immediately. But also, yeah, the only things defending Washington, D.C. are rifles and pistols. It's not like America has nukes or anything. Definitely not. God. Look, he has 2 different AI slop images. Look, guys. There's one where it's all festive and nice, and another where it's, I guess, dawn is coming or something. I don't know. Just kind of seems like Americans aren't really empathizing with you, Mr. President, because their gas prices are like $60 to fill up their tank. And like, not only that, he's been getting handed losses right and left in court related to like his different pet projects in DC. This like multi-paragraph rant is all about the fact that he can't call it the Trump Kennedy Center because only Congress can rename it that. So like, he's just mad. He's just big mad. The Kennedy Center has lost over the years. Prior to getting involved a short while ago, hundreds of millions of dollars. Like, he's off the rails. Like, he's, by the way, just as an FYI, that isn't even the only post he made about that particular decision made by Judge Christopher Cooper. This is another one. He's so big mad about it that he keeps posting these giant long screeds about how he's super mad that he can't rename it the Trump Kennedy Center. And in fact, he's so mad, they're going to stop any renovations to it. They're not going to do anything with it anymore. It's genuinely embarrassing. It's embarrassing as an American. And I don't know. Also, it kind of seems like people are pretty happy about this legal decision.
Jody Beater performed a solemn cello solo during what was originally planned as a vigil to honor President John F. Kennedy on what would have been his 109th birthday. But the occasion became an unexpected celebration. The crowd cheered the federal judge's order in a lawsuit brought by Representative Joyce Beatty of Ohio. She's an ex officio member of the Kennedy Center board due to her position in Congress. She claimed the Trump administration's takeover was unlawful because ex officio board members were denied a vote. In his order, Judge Christopher Cooper said Congress named the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts for President John F. Kennedy by federal statute, and the center may not be officially named for anyone else except by an act of Congress. He went on to say, defendants are permanently enjoined from displaying, installing, or maintaining any physical or digital signage that designates, suggests, or implies that the institution is named for any person other than President John F. Kennedy. He gave the center 14 days to remove President Trump's name from the building and its website.
I am taking this as great news. I'm very excited, very happy, and I know that we still have a long road ahead of us. A lot of damage has been done, and a lot of repair needs to take place.
Judge Cooper also granted a preliminary injunction to halt the center's impending 2-year closure for repairs. He referenced previous plans for repair that did not call for a complete closure. Tara Hoot, who has performed at the Kennedy Center, was an early critic of Mr. Trump's takeover. The president had promised to ban drag performers.
Now the tough work begins to rebuild trust with artists, with
Man, how can you be upset about someone who's wearing such a silly, fabulous, fun outfit? Like, oh no, look, that drag queen is wearing a lot of makeup. Oh no, I'm slain.
Communities to bring the Kennedy Center back to life.
After a Kennedy Center spokesperson released a statement mentioning an appeal, many were surprised by a social media post from the president. He slammed Judge Cooper's ruling, but went on to say, "We are going to be working with Congress to transfer this failing institution back to them so they can make a determination as to what to do with it." He added, "I have no interest in continuing what could only be a hopeless journey into Never Never Land." The judge's ruling throws the Performing Arts Center's near future into uncertainty. Jackie Benson, News 4.
Like, I don't know. It is nice, despite the fact that everything is insane, that sometimes we do get a few tiny W's. But, like, things are not going well for Donald Trump right now. Like, the insanity is trickling down, right? The insanity is trickling down. And here's what I mean. Here's another Truth Social post. This is from 5 days ago. The New York Times wrote a story today entitled, "Trump Administration Sees Striking Exodus of Legal Talent," as though that's a bad thing, when actually it's very good. The people that are leaving are radical left deep state lunatics who are destroying our country and weaponizing government. Many of them didn't leave but were fired. The failing New York Times writes this but makes it sound like it's a terrible thing when actually it's just the opposite. We want people who will make America great again, not people that are trying to destroy our country, that were put in by Obama and Biden, and in many cases they shouldn't have been representing the USA in the first place. Let them go on to bigger, better, and brighter things in the future. I fully support that, and I wish them all well, President Donald J. Trump. And it's just like, hey guys, is it going well when you can't actually keep legal talent? Historically in America, the most prestigious legal positions you could get were in like the Department of Justice, right? And people would take pay cuts to work there. And now Donald Trump is saying on social media, no, it's actually really, really good that all of our legal talent is leaving. It's really, really awesome, you see, because then we will only have yes men and we won't have anyone who actually knows what the fuck they're doing. It's actually a great plan. We're setting ourselves up for legal ass kickings nonstop for the foreseeable future. It's a brilliant plan. What could go wrong? Honestly, even if you're a Republican, you should be looking at this and being like, oh, that's really fucking bad. Like, if you're a Republican who actually believes in democracy outside of Donald Trump and like principles that exist outside of Donald Trump, you should be looking at that and seeing that as like a huge red flag, even if you disagree with me on like everything else. Yeah, but it will all work out well in the end. Just lean back and relax. It'll all work out well in the end. All right, it'll all work out. Shh. Also, he's now seeing Republicans in Congress align themselves against his $1.776 billion slush fund. And it does seem at the moment, according to what's happening on the ground, votes are being aligned against this slush fund, even though it's been enjoined by the courts. Like he cannot move forward with this slush fund according to the courts. But I think Democrats have been putting the gears into motion to bring this to a vote so that Republicans have to vote on it, which I think is good. Because Republicans are really, really fucking angry, especially Republicans in the Senate. The current scuttlebutt, if you will, in DC circuits is that effectively senators in the GOP are really angry with Donald Trump because he's been taking shots at, for example, John Cornyn. He supported Ken Paxton over John Cornyn. And a lot of the GOPers think that this is a violation of some kind of unspoken arrangement that he's had with Republicans in Congress. And they're planning to exact some kind of price for those perceived betrayals, right? One of those prices is his slush fund. Another one is shaping up to also be the confirmation process for Todd Blanche, former personal attorney to Donald Trump and current acting head of the DOJ. But Todd Blanche has a timeline that he needs to get confirmed on, and it requires Republicans to vote for him. And a lot of the signaling from people like John Thune indicate that Todd Blanche is not going to have a good time. When John Thune says to the press, hard to say whether or not Todd Blanche can win confirmation as Attorney General, John Thune isn't saying that by accident. He's saying that deliberately because he is directly threatening that priority. That is a direct threat and saying to the Trump administration, we're gonna get that price. We are going to make sure you understand that we do actually still hold some kind of power. And all of this is going on, worth noting here, excellent reporting from the Bulwark. Ebola veterans are aghast at Trump's plan for the outbreak. Now, the great question, what is Donald Trump's plan for the Ebola outbreak? And Donald Trump's plan is no American citizens who are infected with Ebola can come back to the United States. His plan is just either they get better over there or they die. That's it. Like, he is quite literally leaving American citizens to die, and Republicans won't even call him out on it. Like, they just don't seem to give a shit. They don't care. There's an Ebola outbreak. There's currently an Ebola outbreak. Yeah. Now, granted, it is not spreading to a great degree here in America, thankfully, but like, there's just such an inept response, and we've so degraded our capacity to function as a state that Donald Trump is just like, nah, keep them over there. We don't want them here. Keep our American citizens in your countries, please. Is this what's leading to increased racism towards Asians by Republicans? I mean, I would imagine it's not this in particular. I imagine it's because of COVID. A lot of anti-Asian prejudice like arose around, like, you know, the Wuhan virus, the China virus. Republicans were fear-mongering about China being dirty and plague-ridden as a result of COVID, and also fear-mongering just geopolitically against China. And like that, I think that in particular, those two things are what accounts for a rise in Republican racism towards Asian people. Xenophobia and like germophobia often go hand in hand. You can actually see this in the history of how the southern border of the United States was maintained, by the way. A lot of the early eugenicist movement and germ theory and also border enforcement very much linked, actually, because people, when they began to really start learning and accepting germ theory, started to get really scared of pests and rodents, and that in turn meshed with the xenophobia that many people to this day still internalize, which is that, oh, foreigners, they're dirty and covered with pests. And so it led to the creation along the southern border, and you can read books about this, it's fascinating, where it became mandatory that if you wanted to cross from from Mexico into the United States to do work, you had to go through like delousing chambers, right? And these were effectively, you got sprayed with chemicals that would kill any kind of parasite or like vermin or what have you that might be on your person. Of course, it was also poisonous to the people going through these delousing chambers. But these facilities are the direct predecessors of the Nazi Holocaust death camps. You know, the showers full of gas. They got those designs from the facilities on the U.S. southern border. Like it became a part of policy for many different towns across the South. If somebody from Mexico is crossing over to do labor, mandatorily, every single day, they had to get deloused. Many people got sick. Many people died as a result of exposure to these chemicals. And in some cases, it led to like organized labor striking back at these policies. It is also worth noting here that like the insanity continues to trickle down. Like if you think that everything's gonna like just be hunky-dory once Donald Trump leaves, he's surrounded himself with so many people who are deeply committed to harming the US economy and US standing internationally that like you're going to be feeling this at like the supermarket for years to come.
Do you have an update for us on tariffs? I know some of the tariffs that are in place will expire in the coming weeks, right, after the Supreme Court decision. Was the president planning on any changes in terms of the tariffs?
So what's going to expire is what's called the Section 122. It's a kind of an emergency 5-month authority that would put on. It's a 10% global tariff. And along with that, we have existing 301s and 232s. But right now, to go back to the tariff structure, the deals that we've struck with countries around the world, whether it's Japan, China, Europe, the whole EU is willing to pay 15% tariffs and take down the tariffs on us. It's an incredible deal. So what's happening now is Ambassador Jameson Greer, U.S. Trade Representative, is doing studies, Section 301, and if those studies are successful, those 301s will get recalibrated to the exact level of the trade deals we had with the countries.
Meanwhile, do you have an update?
So just as an FYI, I want to remind you all, that's not how tariffs work. Europe isn't paying 15% more when they ship things to us. The people who are shipping things in are paying the 15% tariffs. That is the American companies. The American companies are paying 15% more to buy foreign goods. It is a tax we all pay, because then that 15% is not absorbed by the company. It's passed on to you, the consumer, right? And the idea that like, oh, we're getting such a good deal because they dropped their tariff on our goods, but we still get to maintain a 15% tariff on their goods. That just means we're still paying 15% more for no reason. For no reason. And these tariffs are all directly related to Donald Trump via a unilateral authority, right? Meaning that he is the sole reason you are now paying 15% more for all of those things. Meanwhile, it is not limited to just Europe. You know, any goods coming in from Europe, you have to pay 15% more. It's also anything coming from Brazil now costs 25% more to import. But we're all getting such good deals. It's just so strange that the good deals that we're getting aren't reflected in any of our purchases. And in fact, when you look at the cost of consumer goods, they're going up massively alongside all of these tariffs. What's so interesting is that when you look at the actual data, it turns out everything is continuing to get more expensive. It's massively inflated from where it was when Trump first came into office. And Republicans just haven't really seemed to catch up with that reality, because they keep hearing on Fox News and the conservative bubbles that they live in that, oh, Europe is paying 15% more when it comes to tariffs. The Europeans are paying 15% more for American goods. That's not how that works. Yeah, exactly. The price increases, I think, that are starting to hit now in terms of gas, in terms of groceries, those are not going to be things that people can avoid. People's grocery bills are going up. Like Brassman in YouTube chat says, my grocery bill went up 50% in the last month. I've been noticing it. I've been noticing different products are disappearing off of the shelves because the cost of making them has become unsustainable. You know, because supply chains have had to be moved around. Recipes and different things that might be familiar to you have changed, or the product might have disappeared entirely. Companies are folding because of these tariffs. And now you also have the Iran crisis, which is throttling gas, which is throttling oil. and not all oils are the same, by the way. The kind of oil that comes out of the Strait of Hormuz, that goes towards jet fuel. It's causing a profound jet fuel crisis. When that really starts hitting home and countries start burning through their entire stockpiles, which is going to be soon, there's going to be major, major bottlenecks when it comes to the shipping and logistical movement of supplies around the world. If you thought the price increases you've seen so far have been bad, they're nothing compared to what is coming and kind of, to an extent, already baked in, right? And I also really need to hammer home, oil isn't the only thing that goes through the Strait of Hormuz. If you enjoy a good can of beer, guess what? Some of the largest aluminum smelters in the world are located in that region and have to be shipped out. The aluminum has to be shipped out through the Strait of Hormuz. So anything that is canned in aluminum right now is going to get more expensive by quite a bit. There's also going to be huge problems when it comes to other really necessary goods, in particular, sulfur. Sulfur is exported massively through the Strait of Hormuz and is also something that accounts for a great deal of the fertilizer that is used around the world, which means we're setting ourselves up, because crops have already been planted in a lot of cases, for one of the worst years of harvest on record due to what is happening right now. Yeah, weren't the predictions that the largest shocks were going to come this month and then September? Yeah. Because there are a lot of what is happening right now is kind of baked in, not just necessarily over the next few months, but for potentially the next couple years, at least. You know, in some cases, some of the facilities that have had to shut down due to the Iran conflict or have been damaged, in some cases, it will take them years to restart operations, because that is how big and how complicated those plants are. It is an unending set of crises. It is made worse by the fact that the Trump administration right now is going out in public and trying desperately to tout unambiguously evil and horrible things as if they were just the best things on God's green earth. And here's exactly what I mean. Here's Secretary of Agriculture, the Secretary of Agriculture talking about some of their major victories of the administration.
People working today than ever before. So as we have moved about 4 million people off of SNAP, we don't have the exact data, how much of that is fraud, how much of that is people just moving into the American dream and off of the welfare programs. But we think it's probably pretty significant that, yes, this is the goal. And when we hear so much pushback that, well, y'all, you know, why are you moving? Why are you kicking people off? If you are, and by the way, one of the most important pieces of the One Big Beautiful Bill of the Working Families Tax Cut was requiring able-bodied adults without small children at home to actually look for a job or perhaps work 15 or 20 hours a week to continue on that program. I say all of that because these programs should not be a handout. They should be a hand up. And people working today than ever before.
That is maybe one of the most horrifically fucked up things I've ever heard a bureaucrat say. Bragging about kicking 4 million people off of SNAP. That's the food assistance program. That's what allows people who live in below the poverty line to be able to eat, right? And it's not even to be able to eat well. Like it is, like in many cases, SNAP is not sufficient to feed an actual human being and keep them alive. And not only that, SNAP already has work requirements. My argument is that it shouldn't have any work requirements at all. You know, there's no excuse for any man, woman, or child to go hungry in the richest country to ever exist, right? But how it works right now is that it already has work requirements. The bragging about, well, we kicked 4 million more people off because we think that there's rampant fraud and abuse in this system, and we think, you know, most of them were probably misusing it. But she straight up says, she gives the entire game away.
So as we have moved about 4 million people off of SNAP, we don't have the exact data, how much of that is fraud, how much of that is people just moving into the American dream.
She straight up says it. We don't have the data on how many of those people we kicked off of SNAP relied on it fraudulently or actually needed it. They don't know. So instead of verifying the people who were defrauding the system and kicking them off, instead, they just said, fuck it, and kicked people off regardless. And I just want to say that's maybe one of the most heinous things I've ever heard in my life. Well, like to be someone who sits and looks at this program that keeps people from starving to death and says to themselves, well, we could spend the time to figure out who is actually defrauding it, or we could just kick everybody off. And to opt to kick everybody off, starving potentially millions of people in the process. Like, that's genuinely evil. That's genuinely evil. That's valid, some people being lazy. But do you think that the people who are lazy, it's important enough to punish them that you're willing to take the risk that you could be starving like millions of other people to death? Like, I don't think that's worth it. I don't think that's worth it at all. Let's see. Just out of curiosity, what is the maximum number one person can get in SNAP per month? The maximum benefit for a single person on SNAP is $298 per month on the federal program. And that varies from state to state, of course. The minimum is $24 per month. 296? Most people are earning way closer to the minimum amount of SNAP. And they have to rely on, like, maybe $100 per month, if they're lucky, for food. Some people have to rely on $24 a month for food. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. Like, right now, things are so bad. Let me put it to you this way. Things are so bad that I want to pose to you that this is maybe a sign that Trump's America is truly not working. This is a report from May 29th from local South Dakota news, CODA. Let's take a look at this news report.
The need for food and basic necessities continues to grow here in Rapid City. One local family's little free pantry service is serving hundreds of people and distributing tens of thousands of items. CODA Territory's Carly West reports.
It may look small, but the Little Free Pantry at 912 Franklin Street is having a big impact on the local community. Since launching in October, this pantry has distributed over 18,000 items. It's different than traditional food pantries because it's discreet. It doesn't require filling out forms or standing in line. It operates on a take what you need, give what you can model, and was founded by two educators who wanted to do their part in the fight against food insecurity.
18,000 items have gone through the pantry. That can be anything from food items, clothing, hygiene items, cleaning products. We've seen it all.
But the need in Rapid City is so great. The donations are coming in faster than the storage space in their quaint house in historic West Boulevard can keep up with.
Our dream is to land some grants or some additional funding for us to be able to expand this. We would also love to be able to expand our storage capabilities. We'd love something that's temperature regulated, especially with the hotter summer months. That limits what items can be put in the pantry. During the cold months, that also limited it. We did pretty good with just how everything goes relatively quickly in our pantry.
The pantry is open 24/7, 365 days a year. If you'd like to help fill the pantry, you can bring your donation to 912 Franklin Street. In Rapid City, Carly West, CODA Territory News.
This is a heartwarming story, in a sense, of a community coming together to support one another, to make sure everybody has the food that they need. But the fact that this small, it's literally just a couple shelves with some food. And it's been utilized 18,000 times, for 18,000 items, rather. in South Dakota. That is an indicator here that this administration is woefully out of touch with with people who are actually working where they are. Because working class people include people who are on SNAP. They're working class. And when we talk about this, like, Republicans act like all these people are just out to like leech off the system. They are working and starving at the same time. And the reason they starve is not because they're lazy. It is not because they choose to starve. They starve because as a society, we have allowed ourselves to be bamboozled by con men like Donald Trump, Epstein class associates like Donald Trump, who stands in the corner of every rich asshole who is out there defrauding our system out of billions of dollars. And it is wild to me that in America, we have allowed ourselves to be lied to such an extent that a senile old fool who is suffering from dementia can bamboozle and befuckle the entire Republican apparatus into rabidly saying, oh, no. The real problem with our system is a few million people who need a couple extra bucks every month in order to make in order to have enough money so that they don't die, in order to have enough money so that they can buy cans of beans. And instead of the actual fuckers who are fucking everybody over, which is, of course, the Jeff Bezos of the world, the Elon Musks of the world, the Donald Trumps of the world. Stop riding that billionaire dick, friends. You do not have to. Stand in solidarity with fellow people who you have more in common with. Because I guarantee you, if you are a working person in this country, you are one bad week away from becoming somebody who relies on SNAP. You are not that far removed and that well protected in this country from relying on the same systems that keep others alive. So you should be doing your damnedest to keep them around, even if you're just a completely self-interested asshole. Because I've seen people go bankrupt from their medical expenses. I've seen people throw everything they got at cancer and then they got nothing left. And suddenly they're on those programs. And you want to know something? I'm willing to bet you good money that there were potentially millions of people who were in that boat who just got kicked off of SNAP that the Trump administration is clapping themselves on the back for doing. It makes me so mad. It makes me so mad. Because it's very obvious who is actually benefiting right now. And it's not people on fucking SNAP. Here's the Wall Street Journal. Worker compensation, wages, and benefits grew 0.8% in the first quarter of 2026 from the fourth, while domestic corporate profits jumped 2.7%. In America, profits, not revenue, profits alone grew by 2.7%. But how much did wages go up for working people in this country? 0.8%. You are earning a smaller share of the wealth you work to generate in America right now than you were last year. And who gets that bigger share of the profits, if not the working people? It goes directly to those billionaire fuckers who are competing amongst themselves to be the world's first trillionaire. That's what they care about. They just care about, like, their own personal status. They don't give a fuck about you. They're over there building like their fucking doomsday bunkers. How mad? Yeah, I am mad that the working people in this country are getting screwed over. I've been and lived in working class rural communities in this country, and I've seen them fucking killed off by these billionaire fucks who roll in with their Walmarts and put everyone else out of business. Right? Like, the people who are killing this country are billionaires. And I've seen it happen to town after town after town in rural America. They are the people killing the factories. They are the people killing the lifeblood of America. They are the people killing the farms. They are the people killing the housing prices. They are the people killing this country. How can a sane person not be mad at this? Exactly. Anything less then righteous anger is delusional. Like, if you are not angry at what is happening to this country, what a cushy fucking life you must lead. Like, you're probably one of those rich fuckers who lives in some kind of gated community. I do not believe you if you tell me you are like an actual working class person and you don't see how the rich have fucked over your community. I do not believe you. Jesus would be flipping tables at this. True. True. So, all that being said, as a result of that growth of 0.8% and versus 2.7%, labor's share of gross domestic income, conceptually similar to GDP, sank to 51%, the lowest since records began in 1947. Profits share climbed to 12.1%, the highest since 1950. We are literally right now at the tail end of you have not been this screwed over as a worker in this country since the tail end of the fucking Great Depression. And there are people who are going to be in your community, in your face, telling you, no, you're not getting fucked. Don't worry. Just sit back and let it happen. It'll all work out well in the end. Don't worry about getting fucked over now. It'll all work out in the end. So, just sit back and relax. It's truly disgusting. And like, when we talk about like the actual effects at the grocery store, this isn't an abstract. This is how close American households are to the financial edge. This is from May 28th. Affordable has been a politically potent word, but an ill-defined measure of financial pain, often used as a reference to inflated prices. New research from the Brookings Institution, released Wednesday, describes affordability by comparing the rising costs of essentials against family incomes. By that measure, the report found in 2024, 45.5% of U.S. households did not earn enough to cover their necessities. The report concluded that a mere $1,000 hike in the annual cost of living would leave another 3 million households unable to make ends meet. That precarity is partly due to the gap between inflation and wages. In 2024, national wages saw just a small 1.3% bump, well below the rate of inflation of 2.9% that year, according to the Census Bureau. Households across the country are not earning enough. Housing, healthcare, and childcare are especially large chunks of household budgets that families have little control over. In order to actually solve affordability, we have to deal with these larger, more structural costs that are harming households, according to Hannah Stevens. So let's take a look. According to the paper, in 2024, more than 50% of families in New York State could not manage on their incomes. And while households in Washington, D.C. outperformed the national average, with over 60% able to afford necessities, the city's Black residents were significantly worse off, more than 20 percentage points behind the district's baseline. Wages are rising much faster for families already making more. Higher income families saw a pay rise 6% this April compared to a year earlier, but the boost for lower earners was just 1.5%. Economists have used the term K-shaped economy to describe unequal growth, where upper income households increasingly earn and spend more, while lower income families earn and spend less, which is exactly what's happening. So the people who are doing well in this country are increasingly doing even better, while the people doing poorly in this country are increasingly doing even more poorly. It is truly disgusting. We are in a deeply troubled moment. And I do want to say that there are a couple politicians who are actually standing up and saying what needs to be said in this moment. I do very much appreciate that, right? Yeah, it is, I think, vitally important. PC Schwartz, thank you for the $5 dono.
Any talking point about laziness, homeless people choosing to be poor, using drugs, or any culture war issue are all meant to distract us from noticing who is fucking us.
Exactly! You can look back at the aftermath of the Civil War, and one of the oldest tricks in the book from that time period was saying, oh, we can't pay you more because the blacks are taking your jobs, you know? Like, that was literally like the line from white bosses in order to make sure that white workers and black workers wouldn't work together to get better pay. Like that, it's literally the same playbook time after time after time. Okay? And, you know, it isn't uncommon, by the way, for Republicans to think that, like, homeless people choose to be homeless. They just love it. They like it a lot. My dad believed that. And he talked to, like, I tried to convince him that that was absolutely not true. But he believed it, like, as a foundational value. They've been using this line since the Civil War. Yeah. The whole "they're coming for your jobs" thing, it's literally related to black people who were recently freed from slavery would be willing to do jobs for less money. And so instead of joining together, white racist workers, their bosses would tell them, we can't pay you more because these black workers will work for less. So you don't have a job anymore, I guess, unless you're willing to work for less too. And it fueled racial animosity. It was what got like division so entrenched. It's because it brought the working class in to try and oppress itself instead of working together. And I do have to say, I am appreciating that there are candidates out there who are trying to push back on Donald Trump's craziness. But, like, frankly, more people need to be outright stating what is blatantly obvious. Donald Trump has gone absolutely crazy. He's a madman. And he should be removed from office yesterday. But in the meantime, we have folks like John Ossoff, and I've been pleasantly surprised by what I've seen from him. I'm not sold on him by any means, but he seems to be a dark horse candidate for a potential 2028 run, as he's setting himself up here to win his seat back again in re-election. Many people choose to be homeless. No, they don't.
He's trying to put his face on the money. Did you see that? He's building a monument to himself. But see, Atlanta, he's doing these things now because no one will honor him when he's gone. Because he's a failed president and a national disgrace.
Like, John Ossoff, I gotta be honest, has had some good moments on his trail. I think this is from the same speech. Just wanted to play this. Just as a way to, like, show you guys, we are not completely and utterly fucked. There are people who are trying, you know, in their own ways, to stand up and fight.
To make America the world leader on human rights and return nations to the path of peaceful coexistence. And see, this is what small men like Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and Stephen Miller will never understand. That our national greatness flows not through our blood or our genes, but through our ideas. Americans are not a race, we're a people. United not by ethnicity, but by our shared convictions, and that is what makes us exceptional and a beacon to the world. How amazing is it that the most powerful nation on earth proclaims as its core values that all are created equal, with inalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, no matter how humble our beginnings, no matter our ancestry, no matter when we arrived on these shores. In Atlanta, a wave is building. The kind of wave that comes once a generation, when people have been pushed too far and they decide all at once, all together, that enough is enough. So let's give them a united Georgia. Let's save the country again. Let's make sure they hear it all the way down at Mar-a-Lago that Georgia will bow to no king. Thank you. God bless you. Let's get to work. Thank you so much.
This guy's got a certain juice to him, folks. He's He if he chooses to run in the future, I think he could marshal a pretty good showing in some kind of primary. Now, to address some people in chat who've been saying that, like, you know, homeless people choose to be homeless for whatever reason, just to push back on that, here is a group dedicated to ending homelessness called United to End Homelessness. Pretty to the point. They have a page here. Myth number 2: people choose to be homeless, and most decline services when offered. There's a common myth made by society that people choose to be homeless. This misconception causes us to look at homelessness without empathy and allows others to ignore the trauma of homelessness, which I would say, just as an aside, is correct. It creates a permission structure to say, well, maybe that person who's homeless really just wants to be homeless, right? It creates a certain permission structure for yourself to excuse that society has chosen to systematically allow for homelessness to exist, when that is a choice we make as a society, right? What is the ICE situation in Georgia? I believe ICE has been pretty active in Atlanta. People are fucking furious. According to the county of Orange County, 2019 point-in-time count, 6,860 individuals are experiencing homelessness in Orange County, and 2,899 individuals are sheltered. CityNet has had opportunities to connect with many of these individuals in the field through our street outreach and case management services. Our street outreach program strives to connect unsheltered homeless neighbors with emergency shelter, housing, or critical services, and providing urgent, non-facility-based care. These activities are intended to help homeless neighbors obtain appropriate supportive services, including permanent housing, medical health treatment, mental health treatment, counseling, and other services essential for achieving independent living, housing stability, case management, and connect with other federal, state, local, or private assistance available. In our experience, we learned that at minimum 82% of those we engage with at the street level are interested in getting connected to the support they need. However, it is common for many of our clients to desire not to leave their community that they have deep connections in, even when a shelter is available outside of their city. They also desire to bring what little possessions they do have, along with their pets, to a shelter, but not every shelter program has the capacity to support individuals with those needs. According to the homelessness in Orange County, the costs to our community, the 3 major factors precipitating homelessness are securing jobs or retaining jobs with sustainable wages, finding or retaining affordable housing, including evictions, and foreclosures and family issues, which include domestic violence, family dysfunction, relationship dissolution, and death of a family member. In most cases, the experience of homelessness is not a choice, but a series of life events and complicated moments in time that led to living on the streets. Being homeless is stressful, humiliating, exhausting, and oftentimes unsafe. Daily, men, women, and children who are victims of homelessness live vulnerably and are commonly found in dangerous circumstances. When we take the time to learn someone's story, we likely will hear that they are not choosing to be homeless, but rather there are barriers to them getting housed. It is our responsibility as a community to address these conversations of homelessness with an attitude of empathy, compassion, and servitude.
I have the pleasure of working alongside an amazing team that daily is deployed across a variety of cities.
Where's Waldo? Where's Waldo? Thank you for the 5 gifted memberships. Very much appreciated.
Cities in Orange County alone, and they are building relationships with individuals experiencing street-level homelessness and striving to connect and support individuals that want access to the coordinated entry system. Many times, individuals have experienced some sort of life situation that maybe they were laid off, evicted, a medical crisis, something that happened to their family system where they just lost support in some way, or maybe they endured some sort of trauma. And so oftentimes our staff and our team, when building these relationships with individuals and families, they hear that, you know, this isn't the life they chose, and it's not something that if they had all the options in the world that they would choose to experience, but it was a ripple effect from whatever life situation that they endured.
But maybe this is just the secret pro-homeless propaganda. You know, maybe this org is just secretly propagandizing all of you and trying to conceal the truth that homeless people just systematically choose to be homeless. Like, I gotta be honest, even like the highest numbers I have ever seen about people who choose to be homeless without qualification, that like they're choosing to be homeless because they want to make sure they have their pets and stay near their friends or family or what have you. It's like 5%. 95% of people are not choosing to be homeless. At the very, and that's like giving the high estimate for how many people are choosing to be homeless. Yeah, the pro-homeless lobby, exactly. The fact is, Donald Trump is dementia-addled, he's falling apart, he's threatening genocide, and also, he is the embodiment of the agreement between our political system and capital. And that agreement is effectively that our politicians, at least our corporate politicians who accept all this corporate money, will do whatever it takes to defend those corporations and CEOs and billionaires from getting taxed and paying their fair share, and will instead shift their tax burden onto the American people. And that tax burden will either be in the form of increased taxes, increased fees, or it will be in the form of cut services. You will be fucked over by billionaires, by the people billionaires pay to be their own agents. That's what's happening. When you see like, oh, millions of people cut off of SNAP, that's so that they can give a giant check to a billionaire. When you see, oh, they're kicking millions of people off of Medicaid or cutting benefits on Medicaid, that's because they're cutting a check to the biggest corporations to ever exist on Earth, who have record profits. They are systematically choosing to push more people into poverty, push more people into homelessness, push more people into starvation, make your children suffer so that they can give more money to the richest fuckers to ever exist. And I think that's wrong. I think it's wrong if you're a Republican. I think it's wrong if you're a Democrat. I think it is wrong the way that this country fucks over working people. And for all of our good, we need to start organizing against this shit. We need to start organizing against people who are selling us out to the richest people to ever exist. We need to organize. So join your local Dems, join your local DSA, join Progressive Victory. You can be someone who helps organize your local community in order to put a stop to this kind of horse shit. Hey, just as an idea, instead of relying on a good-natured couple in South Dakota to put together a free pantry available to anyone, no qualifications whatsoever, what if your city did that? You can make that happen in your city. You can have that facilitated by your local government. You can feed people and make sure no one in your community is going hungry. You can help pass the kind of legislation that makes sure no one in your community has to be homeless. You can pass those priorities. There's no reason people in your community have to suffer so that billionaires can get rich. Like, there is no reason for that. There's no reason you have to tolerate masked men sweeping your streets with guns and pulling aside your friends and neighbors and family members. There's no reason you have to tolerate AI data centers poisoning your water, poisoning the air you breathe, poisoning the very sounds you hear. There is no reason you have to tolerate this shit, which is all massive fucking handouts to the richest people to ever exist. You do not have to enable this. You do not have to tolerate it. You have agency in your local area. Get involved in your local politics. And I can give you 3 different ways to do that. You can join your local Dems. You can go to their local meetings. You can make your local Democrats more progressive. But it requires you to show up. And you can also join your local DSA and help organize working people in your community and make your DSA as effective as New York City DSA. We can have a Mamdani in every American city if we get organized in DSA enough. And you can join Progressive Victory. Because even if you are isolated in a part of the country where you feel like your involvement locally might have very little impact, you can channel your efforts into campaigns across the country by phone banking, door knocking, text banking. And you can do that shit digitally, by the way. Not the door knocking, obviously, but you can do this. There are 100 different ways you can get involved. And if you need help getting started with DSA or your local Dems, we have people in our community who can help you do that. So join our Discord, reach out to Gamergy for help with DSA, reach out to Dragonfly for help with your local Dems. They have years of experience organizing and getting shit done within those respective organizations, and they can help you do the same. That's the goal. The goal is to change and get us out of this awful status quo where the working people of this country keep getting fucked over and the people who have the least in this country keep getting less. And we need to put we need to put a stop to it. Because the wealthiest people to ever exist, they're not going to voluntarily give up their money. So, all that being said, got anything out of this? Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and leave a comment. Let me know what you think about municipal food pantries. I think, frankly, that's a wonderful idea. I think the city and the state should be paying to put out municipal food pantries that have shelf-stable food people can take if they are in need. I think that's a good idea. All of that being said, last but not least, check out ImogeneOlivia.com. Gender euphoric lingerie designed from the ground up for trans femmes, also tested with cis men, cis women, non-binary folks. It is comfortable, sexy, non-tucking lingerie. Go check it out, ImogeneOlivia.com. Link down in the description. And let's keep on going.
Riverboat deck is going to town. All the viewers gather round. Twitch and YouTube is where she streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, gaming, plenty more. Her sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord.